wanted me to come this morning with a word that just made you feel good, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm all about making you feel good. I'm all about the presence of God will make you feel good. But sometimes we need to be challenged a little bit. And we need to understand that what we have done as a body, I'm not talking about necessarily Cornerstone Statesville. I'm talking about as the bride of Christ in the United States and in the world as a whole, we have become distracted. We have focused on the wrong things. We've got other things that have gotten our attention. Let me tell you, the enemy works in distractions. I wanted like this right here. Let's just use this. Well, here we are. He is our source, right? He's our 100% source. And we are over here worshiping our source, telling him who he is, and he's telling us who we are in him. It's a great relationship. And as we're focused on him, up comes something that just grabs our attention. And when that grabs our attention, where does our attention get lost? Disconnected. We get lost. We lose our attention on the Father. And let me just tell you, this is a tool. This is literally a tool of the enemy to get you focused on what don't matter, to get you focused on distractions. And I want to walk you through something today. I felt like what we should do is go back to the basics. Let's go back to the basics. I'm going to start at my most basic place, Genesis. Y'all know where Genesis is? It's the very first book, right? Let's walk. I'm going to tell you right now, you need to get your pen and paper out. There's probably going to be 5 to 7 different things that are going to hit you this morning, and you're going to need to go home and chew on this. Don't eat it. Chew on it. Genesis, just for time, I'm going to kind of synopsize. You need to go back and read all this. But let me start with this. In Genesis 1, what we see is God is our source. Watch this. I'm going to show you. What he does is he starts by creating 3 main sources of life. Say sources. Sources of life. He creates the heavens, right? Then he creates the waters, right? Then he creates the firmament, the land, correct? But what's interesting is that he then goes back and he speaks to those sources. And he gives those sources life. Go back and read it yourself. He says, let the heavens, he's speaking life to the sources. Oh, man. Let the heavens bring forth stars and lighter and lesser and greater light. Y'all have heard that, right? Let the heavens bring forth that. And then he speaks to the water. Let the waters bring forth every kind of weird, creepy fish. I get creeped out by fish. Especially the bigger, the better. I don't like to go on cruises. I think about all the creeping things in that water. But my God created it, right? Then he goes and he says, let the earth bring forth grass and trees, right? And horses and cows, come on. But what's interesting, those are their sources. And then it's almost like, you can almost see that he begins to peruse, to look around. What source? I want something that's special. I want to create something that's special. I want to create something that I can walk with, I can talk with, I can eat with, I can love on, I can have relationship with. He wants to create you and me. So what source should he use? So we look at the heavens, no, that's not good enough. We look at the waters, that's not good enough. We look at the earth, you know what? I could use some of that dirt, but that's not really good enough. Oh, man. So in Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 26, he speaks to himself. And he says, let us bring forth man in our image and let him have dominion over all the birds of the air and over all the grass, the trees, the sun, all of it. Let him have dominion over all that. Let me just explain this to you. Let me put this into cowboy terms. Your source is not the dirt. Your source is not the earth. Your source is not the heavens. Your source is not the waters. Your source is God himself. So he took some dirt and he put all the dirt together and he formed it into a man, right? But that dirt had no life until what? What's he do? He blew his literal self, he blew his breath into that dirt, and that dirt stood up. Come on, praise God. The dirt didn't stand up because of the dirt had life. The dirt stood up because the breath of God gave the dirt life. And see, here's the deal. We've been living our life like dirt all of our life. And that's not even who we are. We've been focused on our outside, on the part that doesn't even matter, and who we actually are, our source, our very source itself, is God the Father. So I'll make it sense like this. Let me ask you this. Guys on the back row, let me ask you this. When stars die, I know you're all in school, so when stars die, where do they go? Do you say, I don't know? That's my favorite kid right there. I like that answer. I don't really know either. They go back to their source, right? Where? Okay, yeah, so she's good. They go back to their source. They go back to the heavens, right? I mean, I'm not a scientist, but y'all know what black holes and all that. You know all that, okay? What happens when fish die? They go back to their source, which is what? Water, or my belly. As you can tell, I've gained a little bit, you know what I'm saying? What happens when trees die? They go back to their source, which is what? The earth. What happens when you die? She said, I go back to my source, she said. See, actually, two things happen, right? Come on, are y'all tracking with me this morning? Two things happen. Number one, the dirt's going back to its source, which is where? The dirt, the earth. But the breath of God goes back to its source, back to the Father. And that's why the word says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he is Lord. Because they can't help. I'm talking about I'm not talking about just yours. I'm talking about every soul that ever has lived and is living now has the literal breath of God giving them life, and they don't even know it. And whether they believe it or not, they're going to go back to their source and stand before Father.